a semi-hollow T-style in blue burst that nobody else has. Then the next thing you know, it has a Bigsby on it and some Filtertrons, and that would be pretty good. There's no shortage of cheap or affordable guitars on the market right now. You could say that this is probably the best time to find a budget instrument. By the same token, there's no shortage of these Glarry guitar videos on YouTube. If you haven't seen them, Glarry is a budget instrument brand producing inexpensive electric guitars, acoustic guitars, among other things. They've reached out to me in the past to take a look at their instruments. It's been a while since I've looked at one, but I started with one of their S-style guitars that at the time sold for like $59. That was pretty cool, especially considering the price. After that, they had me look at one that was more similar to something from Ibanez. That one was a bit of a disappointment compared to the first review. So when they reached out and asked if they could send me their T-style semi-hollow guitar to take a look at, I was hoping that things had improved. So this is the guitar profile for the Glarry GTL semi-hollow. So far, this is actually Glarry's most expensive model that I've taken a look at. In fact, it's the most expensive model for electric guitars on their website. Nearly twice the price of the original S-style. The S-style has gone up in price since, but you would think twice the price, it must be twice as good, right? One would think. Let's start talking about the specs. We have a basswood body weighing in at 6 pounds 2 ounces, and you have the standard offering of a maple neck, a maple bolt-on neck. Now in this example, you have two separate pieces of presumably maple for the fingerboard and the neck. You can distinctly see the different wood on the fingerboard. The headstock sports the updated Glarry shape, and gone are the days of a headstock from Glarry that resembles another famous brand, and that's a good thing. Nobody should be copying trademarked items from other guitar makers. Headstock thickness, 13.7 millimeters, and of course you have the regular offering of 6 inline sealed tuners. That's pretty much par for the course for guitars in this price range. The nut itself on this guitar is plastic, and you can tell, first impression just by looking at it, that it needs some setup work. It's kind of standard on inexpensive guitars. The nut slots where the strings actually go through will need to be filed down so that they're a bit lower and closer to the frets. What happens on a guitar with the nut slots too high is when you go to play your open position chords, you're actually pulling the strings too far down to get to the frets. It pulls the strings sharp, so your chords sound out of tune. It also makes it a little bit more difficult to play here at the open position. One thing to say is this looks a whole lot better than the first S-style guitar, so at least they've made some improvements there. So we could say it looks decent, but playability is pretty rough. Here's a tone test of these open position chords with the nut set up the way it is from the factory. Let's talk a little bit about the neck itself. Here are the dimensions on this example. Width at the nut, 41.9 millimeters. Width at the 12th fret, 51.5 millimeters. And width at the end of the fingerboard, 56 millimeters. The depth of the neck at the 1st fret, 23.5 millimeters. And depth at the 12th, 24.6. So my initial impression when first playing this guitar is you can feel that the neck is a little bit chunky compared to perhaps some other guitars. The fingerboard on this guitar is spec'd at a radius of 12 inches, probably closer to about a 14-inch radius on this example. You have 22 frets and dot markers. The fretwork on this guitar is decent. It's probably similar to the Red Sparkle Squire that we looked at a little while back. You can check out that video here. Probably need some cleanup on the fret ends, but that usually happens on these kind of guitars. Maybe a little bit of spot leveling here and there, but I didn't touch it at all. As we move down the guitar, getting closer to the body, we come to my biggest issue with regards to quality on this guitar, and that has to do with the neck heel and the neck pocket. Clearly, there must have been some assembly issues with this guitar. Upon taking it apart, you can see that there were some thin pieces of wood placed inside the neck pocket as an attempted shim to get the setup correct. But even besides that, that's not so big of a deal. But the biggest problem here is the neck actually sits crooked inside the pocket. In other words, as you move up the neck, it's uneven. Your high E string on this example is falling off the fretboard a little bit, whereas your low E string has plenty of real estate. So that's definitely a problem. Now, sometimes you'll find that happen on bolt-on neck guitars. And in this example, of course, I took it apart, put it back together just to check it out and take pictures of it so that you guys can see it as well. But I went through the standard procedure if this happens on a normal instrument where it's, the neck pocket and neck are actually correct together. So you're actually pressing down on the headstock, trying to hold the neck as straight as possible, and then retightening the screws that hold the neck down. So I got this one as good as can be, but you can still see that there's definitely an issue with quality control on that. And to me, that's a pretty big deal because, I mean, your neck is pretty much the most important part of the guitar, in my opinion. And look, if it's not sitting correctly on the guitar, that's an issue. We know this is a cheap guitar. We're not comparing it to something that's custom quality, and that's not right to do. But even on an inexpensive instrument, you expect that the pieces are cut correctly and they fit together and assemble properly. So that's, this is kind of a big issue on this guitar. Probably the nicest feature on this guitar is the pickguard itself. I mean, just look at this thing. It sparkles in all of its pearliness, despite it being underneath all the plastic that I refused to take off. It covers the standard offering of a single coil neck pickup, along with a 3-way pickup selector, and a single volume and a single tone. The bridge plate is an ashtray style bridge with the vintage-ish barrel saddles. So you have 3 saddles, 2 strings per saddle. Interestingly enough, these saddles have the slots in them, which I've seen on some inexpensive guitars, but this is actually the first one that I've come across in person with those kind of saddles. Kind of interesting. One issue with this bridge is it's nice that this is a string-through body, but a bit of a quality issue again. The string holes actually don't line up when the bridge is fully installed. So some of the holes line up like from your low E string up to maybe about the G and the B string, but then the high E string is actually the hole where the string comes through is almost completely covered by the bridge. So that's a little bit of a problem there. I actually wouldn't have figured it out if I hadn't taken the bridge off and then put it back on. It becomes pretty clear when you actually reassemble it. Just for reference, here are the pickup readings on this guitar. Your neck pickup, 7.15K. Your bridge pickup, 5.78. And both pickups together, 3.24. Now, the main selling feature on this guitar must be the F-hole, or the semi-hollow aspect to it. I mean, this is the Glarry GTL semi-hollow, and it's actually kind of cool on a guitar for $119. Now, one thing, just don't expect a perfect finish on this guitar. This one looks pretty good with the blue, but you will find some minor issues like some overspray inside the F-hole, messy work around the edges of the F-hole. On this example, there was also a little nick in the back of the guitar. I think pretty much every Glarry that I've ended up with has had some sort of chip or some sort of nick in it. One thing I will say for Glarry, they don't cherry pick any of these guitars before they send them to people here on YouTube. Like I said, I'm definitely not the only person that has looked at these, but they pretty much just send you a guitar and it's exactly the same as if I would have bought it from their website. Now, talking about the finish itself and this idea that, some come out great, some come out not so great, that actually applies to every feature of this guitar, even the issues. I mean, again, when I look at these, I try to show you everything that's wrong with them and things that are right with them. But again, we're talking about a $119 guitar. We want to be critical about it, but we're not trying to compare it to a custom shop instrument. But we have to be honest about what it looks like and what the problems are with it. But I think that really that's how it goes with most inexpensive instruments. You're saving money somewhere, and you're probably saving it somewhere with quality control in addition to your materials. So your odds are going to be, a lot of them are going to be bad. Some of them are going to be good. And it's just a matter of when you buy one, did you get a good one or did you get a bad one? So that's kind of what it comes down to with these instruments. And then, of course, as you go up in price buying guitars, you're looking for the quality consistency to be improved. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on it. You take that for what it's worth. One interesting note about the body on this guitar is the thickness is actually 45.5 millimeters, about 1.75 inches, which is kind of like a standard body thickness for a Fender guitar. It's actually a little bit thicker than the Red Sparkle Squire that we looked at. So what are the final thoughts on this offering from Glarry, the GTL Semi-Hollow? Now, the thing about Glarry is they actually mention it on their website, and you'll see it in a Google search. They sell instruments to beginning players. And as much as I hate to say it, we have to be honest, this would be a disappointing guitar if purchased by a beginner. You'd be much better off spending your $119 somewhere else if you're starting to play guitar. Remember what we said earlier, it looks pretty good, but in this example, this specific one that I received, it plays pretty rough. So it's going to take some work to get it to a better standard of playing. Now, if you're a beginner and you're 100% set on buying from Glarry, I would recommend that you purchase their most inexpensive guitar. Well, at the time I reviewed it, it was the S style for like $59. I think now it's like $79 at the time of this video. But if you figure that, $79, throw a couple of bucks in, you can get a cheap amp somewhere. And then the next thing you know, you still have a couple dollars left over to take someone you love out for a discount lunch special. Now, if you're going to do that, make sure you use the links in the description box below. Those are affiliate links, which means you click them, you buy something, you don't pay any extra money, but I make a few coins, and then I can take someone I love out for a discount lunch special. Now down to the nitty gritty. If this guitar is not for a beginner, who is it for? Let's talk about two categories. One, you're a person who's interested in learning how to set up and repair guitars, maybe do a little bit of maintenance work on your own. Now that's not a joke. You can actually purchase one of these guitars, and considering all the issues with this one, you don't have to worry about wrecking it, messing it up. You can do as much as you want to it, take it apart, put it back together, replace parts on it, learn how to do it, and you're not out a whole lot of money if you do something to the guitar by accident. So that's a good example of someone who could purchase one of these, learn some things, and perhaps even come out with a more playable instrument in the end. I mean, you could literally take the neck off and do a bunch of levels and crowns on the entire fretboard if you wanted to, just to practice, for the sake of practicing. And you can hone your skills doing it if you wanted. Now, the other person that would enjoy this guitar is if you're someone browsing the internet, you're frequenting the forums, and you come across a picture of this guitar and you say to yourself, whoa, are you serious? Blue burst with a semi-hollow T-style guitar and that pickguard? That thing is going to look so sick when I take the neck off and rip out the electronics and make it my own. Yeah, that's right. This guitar is for you if you want to mod it and make it something special. Because, hey, if you think about it, it's kind of a cool looking guitar, you know, if you get a good one. And then you can take the parts off of it, put on your own, and you have a semi-hollow T-style in blue burst that nobody else has. Then the next thing you know, it has a Bigsby on it and some Filtertrons. And that would be pretty good. So that is the Glarry GTL semi-hollow. If I missed anything or if you have any questions about the guitar, leave them in the comments section down below. Do you think it was an accurate and honest review? Hope so. But thanks a lot for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like button if you haven't done so already. That helps out the channel and hopefully gets the video out to a few more people. Make sure you subscribe too for more videos just like this, and I will see you in the next one.